All right, guys, today we're going to be doing a 2026 mock draft. Now, I like to do things a little bit differently than most people. I'm going to be using a predictive draft order, obviously my own predictive draft order. If you don't like where I have certain teams picking, feel free to let me know in the comments. Obviously, this changes every week, but right now I have the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl, easily the two best teams in the league in my opinion. I still have the Ravens making the playoffs, winning the division, and winning a playoff game or two. You know, if you use PFF's stock draft order, they're picking what, inside the top 10, inside the top 5 even, which just doesn't make sense. I know they're 1-5, but coming off the bye week, Lamar Jackson's healthy. They're going to be favored in every single game despite having a pretty terrible defense. So again, if you don't agree with my predictions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I think you guys are a little bit nicer on YouTube than you are on Twitter. I've been posting my mock drafts. People get on your ass, bro. They are not very nice about it. That's the other thing about this channel as well. If you guys don't know me, first time watching these videos, I don't mind saying how I feel about certain things. I don't tiptoe around offending certain fan bases or fans of certain players. I say it how I think it is. I'm not saying that's always the case. And I know a lot of people like to do that, and I don't blame them. I said Jalen Hurts wasn't a top 5 quarterback a couple weeks ago, and I got literal death threats, people saying things about my mom, like things I can't even repeat here because the video will just get taken down. It's absurd. People will say anything on the internet where they can just hide behind a keyboard. So I get it. People don't want to face that type of backlash. It's really not personal. Maybe in some cases it is. Maybe I do have certain biases against certain teams. I'll try not to in this video right here now. The Jets, I saw some comments coming out from their owner today, basically shitting all over Justin Fields, saying, well, maybe we'd have a chance if he could complete a single pass. Something along those lines, which is, I mean, first of all, you just can't say that as an owner. The ownership for the Jets, clearly dysfunctional. And I thought maybe the same about my favorite team, the Patriots, last year as well. It kind of seemed like things were going off the deep end with Robert Kraft, but they kind of locked back in, I guess. You know, got rid of Mayo, brought in Vrabel, McDaniels, put some help around Drake May, and look how everything changes in just a couple months. It's absolutely crazy. We'll talk more about that when we get to the Titans, who are in a pretty similar situation with Cam Ward, a young quarterback with a ton of talent. But the Jets, I got Ty Simpson as my QB1 in this draft right now. Now, this is not necessarily what I would do if I was a GM. I want to make that note as well because Lenora Sellers is my favorite quarterback in this draft. He's like a powerful Lamar Jackson. He reminds me of Cam Newton, huge arm. He's a big guy, can run through contact, but he's incredibly elusive and light on his feet, similar to Lamar Jackson, which is high praise. But Sellers is great. I think he just plays behind a terrible offensive line. I think the sky is a ceiling for him. I'm not saying he's going to be good or be Lamar Jackson or be Cam Newton even, but he's got all the tools to do that. So Sellers is easily still my quarterback one. I'm just trying to be a bit more realistic with this mock draft. Ty Simpson is still great, still a dual threat guy. Big arm, can layer throws, which is not necessarily see a lot from college quarterbacks nowadays. I feel like development's kind of put on the back burner. It's what can you do for me right now? I think that's pretty apparent across not only the college landscape, but also the NFL. But Simpson's got all the tools, man. Seems like a smart kid as well. I don't know if it's a gimmick or not, but I've seen a lot of interviews of this guy after the game looking at the stat sheet and play breakdowns and being like, oh, well, we didn't do that well. We should have done that better. It seems like almost tailored. Like he has some sort of social media training where they're telling him to say certain things so that he gets picked higher in the draft. And it makes sense. I mean, they're giving out $500 million contracts nowadays. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if a lot of guys, especially quarterbacks, were told to say certain things. I don't know the guy's personality, so that's purely speculation. A lot of people who do these videos talk about arm length and the the cone drill times that I'm talking about. Is this guy putting on a show? Is it a gimmick that he's saying all these things after interviews? But I do think Ty Simpson is really talented. I think he's the best quarterback in this class from a pure what can you do for me now perspective. Plus he has the upside on top of it, whereas like Lenora Sellers might not be a guy who goes in, plays instantly, and immediately turns around a franchise like Jayden Daniels did last year with Washington, or Drake May is currently doing this season with the Patriots. I think he's a bigger project. I've seen a lot of people compare Anthony Richardson to Lenora Sellers as well, which is crazy. Anthony Richardson, I want to say, threw under 55% in college, whereas Sellers is a whole 10 points higher, a lot more accurate, and that was the big knock to Richardson. So just because they're similar athletes does not make them similar prospects. Just want to clarify that real quick. Kind of went off on a tangent right there. But pick number 2, you got the Tennessee Titans. Again, kind of a dysfunctional organization. They fired their coach, which probably needed to happen. Don't know who's going to be the new head coach there. They're going to stick with the interim guy. They did get blown out by the Patriots after a pretty good start, but clearly something wrong with the ownership there. Clearly things wrong with the coaching staff as well if they're willing to fire their head coach, less than halfway through the season. So it really all starts there. You can have a young quarterback with all the talent in the world, but if you don't surround him with talent and surround him with a good coaching staff, it really doesn't matter who you pick in this situation. And I feel like Jordan Tyson would be great to help out a young quarterback, but it's just hard to pass up on who I believe is the best college player in the country. Ruben Bain Jr. is unbelievably good, man. So powerful, quick. I think he's a better prospect than Abdul Carter was last year, which is really high praise. He's a game wrecker. It's hard to pass up on a guy like this. And I like what the Titans are doing on defense. They got 2 great defensive tackles. Simmons being one of the better defensive tackles in the league. Oladejo, I believe is how you pronounce his name, the rookie out of UCLA. Now, I believe he did just get hurt, but he had a really strong start to the season as well. He's a guy who is very raw, a ton of upside there. So you get Ruben Bain, those 2 defensive tackles. The young kid out of UCLA comes back next year, hopefully healthy. And that's an incredibly good defensive line that's going to keep you in a lot of games. And then maybe you go out in free agency, get some guys to help Cam Ward, spend the rest of your draft picks on offensive players. But you just can't pass up on Ruben Bain in this position. Now, pick number 3, I predicted before the season started that the Dolphins were going to be terrible. Dolphins fans found the Twitter post and killed me for it. And I'm going to take my victory lap right now because they are terrible and they most likely will end up with a top 5 pick. It's hard to imagine they don't fire their coach either. Is Tua the starting quarterback next year? I tend to think so. This team just has too many holes to be like, all right, we're just going to take a quarterback at number 3. Plus, I don't think this quarterback class is really that good. Like Mendoza, Moore, Sellers, all great quarterbacks. All good quarterbacks, but not great quarterbacks. I don't think you have enough tools and, again, the right coaching staff to take Lenore Sellers and hope that he works out well, right? I think maybe Sellers would work better somewhere else, like in Los Angeles with the Rams, where they have 2 first-round picks. They have a great established head coach that isn't going anywhere that could obviously make something work with a athlete of his caliber. But, again, we'll talk more about that later. I think you just go Jordan Tyson in this case. Tyreek Hill gets hurt. Probably played his last snap for the Dolphins. Purely speculation, obviously, but they need more tools on offense. It's really just Waddle right now. Waller came back, but he's towards the end of his career as well. He could easily retire at the end of the season, especially with how poorly the Dolphins have played. Tyson is just easily the best wide receiver in this class. He's a great football player. You know what you're getting here. A guy who can separate. Maybe not the best athlete ever. Not going to blow you away with his speed, but so incredibly technically gifted. A great outlet and safety blanket for really any quarterback, and Tua needs that, right? With the way the offensive line has been playing, they have a couple strong spots there. Paul at left tackle, but their young left guard, Saivavina, pronunciation not my strong suit, out of Arizona, has been putrid for them. So we all know that line is not consistent. They like to get the ball out quick, especially with Tua and his injury history. So Jordan Tyson is a guy who just does exactly that, right? He can get open deep as well. So, he's not purely just a short yardage type of guy, but he's a great safety blanket to have. Nobody runs better slants in college football than Tyson does. He's an awesome player. A lot of people compare him to Justin Jefferson. I see more Antonio Brown. Again, a guy who's not going to blow you away with his physical traits, but just has such a good feel for the game. Jackson Smith-Njigba is another guy just like that. And we'll talk more about players like that as we move throughout this mock draft, because there are a few players like that on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, that maybe won't blow you away at the combine, but are just good football players. And I think it would be silly to pass up on them. And I think we're maybe seeing that trend in the NFL currently with JSN, Igbuka, 2 Ohio State receivers. A lot more examples, but those are the 2 obvious ones at the moment. At pick number 4, we got the New Orleans Saints. I think they stick with Rattler. He's really not that bad. Now, is he going to go out there and single-handedly win you a Super Bowl or single-handedly will your team to the playoffs like Josh Allen does with the Bills? Absolutely not. But I like the way he's been playing this year. I actually think it's incredibly impressive. I think they stick with him, especially after taking Tyler Shugg last year in the second round, which was a really surprising pick to me. Would have liked to see them spend that pick elsewhere, but obviously maybe they didn't realize what they had in Rattler. Now, I would like to see them take Tyson. Tyson would fit so well with so many of these teams, but if he's off the board in this situation, I think you go Arvell Reese. This guy reminds me of Jalen Walker last year, but Jalen Walker, his downside was he was a little bit undersized. Reese is 6'4", 243 pounds, so he's like a bigger Jalen Walker in my opinion. A guy with a high motor, maybe isn't as fast. Speed is not really his strength, but his strength is his strength. So incredibly powerful. He's a guy who can do it all. He can play Mike linebacker. He can rush the passer as well. So a lot of different ways you can utilize him. And, I think he's a player with a ton of potential. It would be silly to pass up on him at pick number 4 when there's no other player in this exact spot where I'd be like, you have to take that guy, right? So I think Reese makes a lot of sense to the Saints, especially with Demario Davis maybe coming towards the end of his career as well. At pick number 5, we got the Raiders. I actually think it's a team with a ton of talent. I mean, Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers in the league. The big hole in this team is clearly the quarterback position. Plus, I think it's the play calling. I think Chip Kelly's got to go. Taking Genti was just such a waste with a team that doesn't really know how to utilize him correctly. I think you just have to go quarterback in this situation, though, and I think you got to go Mendoza, who could easily be the number 1 pick in the draft. Really taking Indiana to new heights at the moment, playing incredibly well. I want to say he has like 21 touchdowns and 2 picks. Yeah, 136 passer rating right now, which is crazy. I don't love Mendoza. Like, I think he could be really good, but nothing about Mendoza strikes me as like, oh, this guy is going to be a great NFL quarterback. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's hard to say that with confidence about anybody, especially young quarterbacks. You never really know what you're going to get. But the Raiders do need a quarterback. They do have good weapons. Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Mayer's a great tight end too. Genti, a pretty decent offensive line, I would say, compared to most teams in the NFL. So it's really not a bad situation to be in. Take Mendoza, take some guys with the rest of your picks on the defensive side of the ball, and that's a competitive team immediately. I honestly thought the Raiders would be competitive this year, but Geno Smith is just so bad. Of course, he just plays the game of his life versus the Patriots. Granted, Gonzo is out, and then just completely falls off afterwards. But, yeah, I would love this pick for the Raiders. Could easily see them taking Dante Moore there as well, maybe Sellers, depending on how the board fell. But at pick number 6, we got the Cleveland Browns. Again, a team that has some talent, man. An elite defense, no question about it. Dylan Gabriel. Now, they did take 2 quarterbacks last year. Obviously, I don't think they really have much faith in Shedeur Sanders. There's clearly some tension there between Shedeur Sanders, the coaching staff, and the ownership. So who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Gabriel is actually not as bad as I think people think he is, but at the same time, he just has no upside. There's no upside whatsoever with him. He's like Michael Penix with less arm talent. He can throw the ball pretty hard, to be fair, but he's not as accurate as Penix. Similar mobility, which is basically none. He can't get away from any type of pressure, and that offensive line just doesn't hold up very well. They definitely need a left tackle. I feel like Proctor, who has been playing a lot better the last couple weeks, is maybe still a reach at number 6. This guy's awesome, though. Proctor, the way they incorporate him in the offensive game plan at Alabama is just awesome to see. It's got him pass blocking. Well, he's not really a great pass blocker, but it's been a little bit better recently. True pass block grade is pretty low. Great run blocker. Obviously, super high upside with a guy like this. Maybe he could still be worth a top 10 pick, especially if he continues trending upwards. 6'7", 366 pounds, still less than 20 and a half years old. So a ton of upside there. He could go really as high as inside the top 5, top 10, or, in the teens, late 20s. I still see him being a first-round pick. Just not a terribly consistent player, but I still think pick 6 is maybe a reach. And speaking of reaches, I think Mekhi Lemon might be a reach here. But Mekhi Lemon is another player I briefly talked about earlier, like Jordan Tyson. Not really going to wow you with his speed or with his physical traits. He's not, terribly tall. He's only 5'11", 195. He's a good football player, dude. A really good football player. 2% drop rate, 57.1% contested catch rate. Great verse man coverage as well. 3.64 yards per route run. Just good at football. Reminds me of, again, JSN Igbuka. Just a guy that, maybe 6 is early, but the Browns need pass catchers. The pass catchers have been letting the Browns down this year. Now, it's kind of a dysfunctional offense in general. Judkins has been great for them. Judy's been super underwhelming. The young tight end Fannin has been solid, but Njoku, Fannin, Judy, they drop the ball. They haven't been consistent. You need a guy who is consistent. You know what you're getting. Mekhi Lemon is exactly that. Give some tools to the offense. You got an elite defense. Turn that side of the ball around, and Mekhi Lemon is a great fit for that team, even if it is a little bit early at pick number 6. Now, pick number 7, you got the Cincinnati Bengals, who I don't know how to feel about. Obviously, Burrow could come back at some point in December if the team is still competitive. They just dismantled the Steelers. Joe Flacco had a legacy game, which maybe says a lot about young quarterbacks in this league, that he comes in like that and just looks like prime Tom Brady for a game. But I don't see that persisting. I think that Steelers secondary is just that bad, and when they're not getting pressure on the quarterback, they're going to get exposed all night long. So I don't think this is a team that's going to stay alive in playoff contention, until Burrow comes back. So I have them picking at number 7 right now, and I have them taking Peter Woods, who I get Clemson hasn't had a great year this year, but they are starting to slowly turn things around. It wouldn't surprise me to see them still win the ACC. Peter Woods, he's just a good football player, another great football player. Maybe a guy who will wow you at the combine, though. He's a unit, right? He's 6'3", 310, can stop the run, can get after the quarterback as well. Hard to go wrong with Peter Woods at number 7 to a team that clearly needs defensive help. At pick number 8, we got the New York Football Giants. A couple different options here. You could go corner. Mansour Delane out of LSU is probably worthy of a top 10 pick. But the way I see this right now, you could go Fano as well, though I think Illuminor has been playing pretty well for the Giants. Now, I think he maybe is coming towards the end of his contract. I'd have to look it up, but I think he's actually been solid for them. Plus, Dart likes to dance. He's athletic. He can get away from pressure. I think maybe here you go get another receiver like Carnell Tate, who I didn't think that highly of heading into the year. Obviously, he's been trending up to the moon recently. My concern with Tate is he's wide receiver too, right? Every team is dedicating all of their attention to Jeremiah Smith, who is arguably the best wide receiver in the country. And obviously he's benefiting from that. But at the same time, he could go to a team like the Giants where all the attention is going to go to Malik Neighbors when he's back healthy. You give your young quarterback some more weapons. Wan'Dale Robinson, Tate, and Neighbors is a really nasty trio, plus Scadaboo back there. Andrew Thomas at left tackle, Luminor playing more consistently this year at right tackle. That is a really good offense. You're setting a young quarterback up who's shown flashes of greatness so far, up for long-term success. So I love Tate at pick number 8, even though if I personally feel like this might be a little bit of a stretch. No way he wouldn't do well there in New York. At pick number 9, Jonah Williams, I'm just not impressed. I was at the Cardinals-Packers game this past weekend. Paris Johnson Jr., one of the most underrated left tackles in the league. Jonah Williams just gets picked on. Now, Micah Parsons would just line up out there and just instantly blow right by him, whether they were chipping him or not. They just didn't really stand a chance. And this is a team that has a lot of question marks surrounding them as well. I love their defense. Will Johnson has been playing tremendously. Walter Nolan, when he comes back, he was one of my favorite players in the draft last year. I think he was better than Mason Graham. I think he will be better than Mason Graham, who, granted, hasn't had a great year this year so far, but still super young. Lots of time to turn around and still develop. A team that could easily take a quarterback as well. Maybe Kyler Murray has played his last game as a Cardinal. I mean, maybe not his last game, but he could be headed somewhere else this offseason. It really just depends. I think if Fano is at pick number 9, though, you take Fano, and then if you really want a quarterback, if you're really done with Kyler, you could take somebody in the second or third round. There'll be some decent options here. The hometown kid, Sam Levitt, although not really hometown. He's not from Arizona, but he obviously plays at ASU. There's some decent guys here you could take a shot on, try to develop on day 2 or day 3, maybe even, get Sellers, who could possibly fall later in the first round, although after the combine, there's just simply no way he does. At pick number 10, We got the Washington Commanders, a team that definitely needs some defensive help. Mansour Delane is the clear and obvious pick to me here. Lattimore has been trending down for quite a few years at this point, and Delane is easily the best corner in the country to me. There is another guy I really do like. We'll talk more about shortly. Pick number 11. Too much sense here. I know everybody's like, oh, Caleb Downs is the best player in the country. I don't think he's played that well this year. This is no Ed Reed like everybody wants to believe that he is. He's an amazing player, ton of potential, but we also got to factor in positional value. Safety positional value just isn't there. Pick number 11 to the Vikings with that floor scheme. That would be nasty. This would be really a match made in heaven for the Minnesota Vikings. If Caleb Downs was able to go to Minnesota, would love to watch that. That would be a lot of fun. Now, pick number 12, we got the Carolina Panthers. Can maybe go wide receiver, but with Tate, Lemon, and Tyson off the board, probably not wide receiver. Linebacker, again, positional value isn't really there. Do you maybe take a reach on a Sonny Styles out of Ohio State or an Anthony Hill Jr., maybe a CJ Allen out of Georgia? It's hard to believe they wouldn't go edge rusher here. David Bailey is great. Romello Height, that Texas Tech D-line is great. I was also at that ASU game on Saturday versus Tech. Ton of fun to watch. David Bailey, now, I don't know if I'm going to put the clip up here, but allegedly, so I don't get sued, grabbed a photographer's neck after the game. Not a good look. That kind of stuff can definitely affect your draft value. It was pretty wild to watch. I don't think it was AI. You don't know nowadays. But this is a guy with a ton of talent. I know he didn't get a very good grade for that game against ASU, but that pass rush was absolutely getting there. 23% pass rush win rate. A really good football player. I can't really decide if I like him or Height better, to be honest. It's really damn close, but I see both of those guys going in the first round. We'll give them David Bailey here. I don't know if there are consistent character concerns there or what the deal with that was exactly again, but the talent is absolutely there. There's no question about that. Pick number 13, we got the Houston Texans, who might be the most dysfunctional offense I've ever seen. First things first, get the offensive coordinator out of there. I don't know how that guy still has a job. He is not good at it. He's proof that you can do anything you want. Just fake it till you make it. The offensive line is garbage as well. Can't run block, can't pass block. It is not a pretty sight there. I'm going Francis Mauigoa out of Florida. I know they have a pretty decent right tackle. That's really one of the only okay spots on the offensive line. But I think you could play Mauigoa at guard. Just put him in left guard and just tell him to figure out the position. He's incredibly powerful, great run blocker. That's really where it has to start with the Houston Texans team. They got to be able to get yards and not get behind schedule, which is something they are doing literally all the time at the moment. So got to go offensive line here. I'd almost spend every pick in the draft on offensive line because the defense is elite. It's one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. CJ Stroud is obviously a solid quarterback, above average. They got some weapons. Higgins, Noel last year out of Iowa State. Schultz at tight end. Obviously Nico Collins, one of the best wide receivers in the league. At pick number 14, I would love to see McVay with Lenore Sellers, but I think Dante Moore maybe gives me more shades of Matthew Stafford. You know, accurate, composed, would make a lot of sense for McVay unless he's just feeling a little frisky and wants to change up the offensive scheme, get a guy who's, you know, incredibly athletic again in Lenore Sellers. But we'll give them Dante Moore here at pick number 14. Again, the Rams do have 2 first-round picks, and if Mauigoa is off the board, they definitely could use a right tackle. I'm going to give them Dante Moore in this case. I do feel like they do spend one of those first-round picks on a quarterback. Could easily bundle them, trade up as well if they felt pretty strongly about somebody. At pick number 15, I'm going to give the Pittsburgh Steelers Lenore Sellers. You know, obviously Aaron Rodgers is pretty damn old. He belongs in a retirement home at this point, although he is having a pretty solid season. You just need somebody for the future here. They did take Will Howard last year, but Lenore Sellers, again, is a guy who could really benefit from sitting for a year if Rodgers does come back next season. And, again, all the tools to be great. I love Lenore Sellers. I think the sky is the limit for him. Pick number 16, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who could certainly take a wide receiver in this case. If Carnell Tate was still on the board or Mekhi Lemon, I could absolutely see them going that route. There's no guarantee Pickens is going to be there next year. They're going to have to give him a new contract, and it's not going to be cheap. So Wide receiver, absolutely in play here. They can maybe take a left tackle as well and kick Guyton back out to right tackle, although I think Terrence Steele's been playing a lot better for them. Wouldn't hate to see them go interior defensive line here. Christian Miller, either out of Georgia, or edge rusher. I'm thinking Keldrick Folk or Romello Height. I'm going to give them Romello here. He stays in Texas. And then at pick number 17, we have the LA Chargers. Don't know how to feel about this team. Obviously, Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Great pass catchers. The defense has really changed, really turned itself around, even with maybe a lack of talent. They don't really have a ton of superstars in defense outside of Derwin James, but Harbaugh's been doing a great job with them. I'm going to give them a center. I don't think Bozeman is the solution there. Connor Lew out of Auburn, who hasn't been graded particularly well this season according to PFF, but you need to help protect Burrow. And with both tackles going down to injury this season, the interior offensive line hasn't been great between Zion Johnson and then also Becton maybe struggling to guard, but maybe those guys are still the solution there. Definitely need a center. Pick number 18, the Bears definitely need an edge rusher, but at the same time, they also need a running back. And in this spot, at pick number 18, it would be really hard to pass up on Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame, who's easily the best running back in this class. Swift, he has been playing a lot better for them the last couple of weeks, but we know what the Ben Johnson offense wants to do. They want to run the ball and set up the play action off of it. Pretty good offensive line. You put Jeremiah Love out there, he's going to be an absolute problem on an offense that is really trending upwards at the moment. I believe the Bears have won 4 straight games. So pick number 19, we got the Cleveland Browns. I talked about maybe Caden Proctor if he continues that upward trajectory, but at pick number 19, you need a left tackle. You need time to give to somebody like Dylan Gabriel, who, again, doesn't really have the athleticism to escape the pocket. I don't know if Gabriel, again, is a long-term solution. For me personally, I don't think he is. I don't think he has that upside. But you got to protect whoever you have back there. Caden Proctor out of Alabama, pick number 19. Left tackle is thin in this draft, man. Incredibly thin. I don't even know who the other options are there at the moment. Most of these guys are right tackles. Lomu is a left tackle, but he's probably profiles better as a guard, a little bit undersized. Austin Severeld, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, has been trending up on that Ohio State squad, which is trending up in general at the moment. At pick number 20, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Pretty damn good team, man. I'm not going to lie. They're getting some good pressure off the edges. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence, really not a long-term solution there with his age either. Maybe you could see them going Keldrick Folk, stacking up on that pass rush. Never hurts to have depth there. I think corner, Woolen's been playing better. Witherspoon will come back from injury. Don't really think they go corner, even though it says it. I think the offensive line has been pretty solid as well. If I was the Seattle Seahawks here, I am going Chris Bell out of Louisville. Kind of reminds me maybe of like a Deebo Samuel, like just so good after the catch, really good on drags, explosive, powerful, got a really funny running locomotion, like just runs powerfully, if that's a good way to describe it. But he's really, really good. Cooper Kupp threw a pick last night versus the Texans, which was interesting to watch. But, he's coming towards the end of his career as well. Torrey Horton has been pretty solid for them. But, give Darnold another threat on offense. Chris Bell is going to absolutely do that for you. JSN is just unbelievable, man. He might already be top 5 in the league. A guy who doesn't wow you again with his physical traits, but just always open, so technically gifted. Really the only guy that Darnold feels comfortable throwing to from, my eye test. So give him another weapon, Chris Bell. And, you're going to have a lot of success there for a team that's coached really well defensively. If they can score consistently, if Darnold can play well and protect the football in the playoffs, which is not something he's historically been able to do, that's a team that could definitely make a run. But we'll see. Pick number 21, we have the Denver Broncos. Sonny Styles, for me, is the pick here. They definitely could use a linebacker. Sonny Styles is a monster. He's 6'5", 243. Definitely reminds me of Isaiah Simmons. But obviously, Simmons played safety and linebacker. I think Sonny Styles is probably purely a linebacker here. Put him in the box around a defense that's already pretty damn good. I also think the Broncos could take a corner here. I think Riley Moss stinks. I get he gets picked on a lot because of Surtain being on the other side, but I'm just not impressed at all by Riley Moss. That is a huge hole in their team. A lot of Broncos fans don't agree with me when I've had them selecting a corner in previous mock drafts on Twitter. But, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. I think Sonny Styles makes a lot of sense here, though, at pick number 21. Pick number 22, this is a team that could use Sonny Styles as well. They could use the linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. CJ Allen mentioned that earlier. I think you would be foolish to pass up on Keldrick Falk here. It could easily be picked in the top half of the first round as well. A lot of talent here. Maybe hasn't demonstrated it so far this season with only 2 sacks, but I mean, he's a monster as well. 6'6", 285. He's got the physical tools to really wow you there. Pick number 23, we got who I believe is the second best corner in the country, Keith Abney Jr. It's been something we talked about literally all video. Doesn't wow you with his size. Delane's bigger, obviously. Probably faster. But Abney knows how to play football, man. This kid is locked down. Continued his great play against Texas Tech, biggest game of the season. He is shut down. So incredibly good. Has a knack for the football. Smart player. Just great in man and zone coverage. Can really do it all. And that would be a beautiful pick for the Indianapolis Colts, who are currently on pace. They're shattering offensive efficiency records. Like, what a surprise there. Will that continue throughout the season? Will Daniel Jones be able to perform in prime time, in the clutch, in the playoffs? Similar questions with a team like this that I have to Sam Darnold and the Seahawks or Jared Goff and the Lions. I got to see these guys perform when it matters. But right now, I mean, that team is first place in the AFC. Super surprising. Pick number 24, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Not sure how to feel about this team. Terribly inconsistent. That defense is garbage, man. Outside of Jalen Carter, it isn't great. Zach Bond hasn't had a good year. They definitely need a corner to pair with DeJean and Mitchell, because whoever's been out there for them, Adoree Jackson a lot, has been absolutely burnt toast. Jermon McCoy is so incredibly talented. I get he hasn't played this season. He's been injured, but I think he'll be back soon, and he really has all the physical tools to be legit. Kind of reminds me of Will Johnson last year, especially with the injury concerns. If he can stay healthy, yeah, he's going to be one of the best corners in the league. Will Johnson showing it this year in Arizona, obviously fell pretty far because of injury concerns. But I don't think teams are going to make that same mistake. They're not going to let somebody that talented fall past the first round anymore. Pick number 25, we got my favorite team. And I'm not sure how to feel about this one, to be honest with you, because this is a really tough decision. We're a great team trending up right now. Would love to see us make some trades before the deadline and really push to win the division, get a high seed, and make a run at the Super Bowl, which might be crazy to say. I don't want to be too biased here, but Drake May is currently setting records for quarterbacks like ever. Like, he's the most accurate NFL quarterback ever right now, which is nuts to say because of how well he throws the deep ball as well. It's not all check downs like Drew Brees. No offense, Drew Brees. Drew Brees is awesome. He's one of the GOATs. But yeah, I think you pounce. You take this opportunity to make some trades at the deadline and take some chances, right? Like, you'd be foolish not to on Drake May's rookie contract. He's going to be one of the highest paid players ever, if not the highest paid player ever when that time comes. So take advantage now. In terms of who we would draft in this situation, it's really hard to say. Sadiq would be really cool. A guy who would help our run game get going, which has really been a struggle for us. TJ Parker, we could definitely use an edge rusher for the future with Harold Landry not really being the solution there. Will we re-sign Chazon, who's been awesome for us? He's on a 1-year deal. We could take a corner. Denzel Boston. Diggs is not the long-term solution at wide receiver. Booty's been great, but never hurts to get more weapons for Drake May. So I think Boston would be really a really nice pick there. A guy who is really good at getting separation versus man coverage, really strong hands. Brazel, a great deep threat. I also like the idea of drafting somebody like Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern, a fantastic pass blocker, concerns with his arm length, but we need a right tackle with Moses coming towards the end of his career as well. Lock up both tackle positions, kind of like the Chargers did with Herbert. Hopefully those guys can stay healthy. And yeah, I mean, this team would be a problem for years to come with Campbell and Tiernan bookending the offensive line, and then Drake May continuing his ascension to, let's just call it what it is, stardom. He's going to be the face of the league in a couple years. Protect him. Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern. Pick number 26, we have the Dallas Cowboys once again. I have heard rumors about them possibly trading for Max Crosby on Twitter this week. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know if the Raiders would let somebody that valuable, that good go, but shit, I mean, the Cowboys did with Micah Parsons, so who knows. We'll also see if maybe they can make a backdoor playoff push, because the offense is moving right now, especially with Lamb coming back. Lamb, Pickens, Javonte Williams, the line's playing better. Dak is playing at MVP level. The defense is starting to get a little bit better, but obviously still huge holes there. I'm going to give them Christian Miller and just retool that defensive line. Christian Miller, you got Romello Height, and then you also got Ziriaku out of Boston College last year, who's starting to play a lot better as well. And that defensive line, all of a sudden, starting to get some pressure. You can make up, for some holes in the secondary. And I think those cornerbacks, Diggs and then Bland are guys who like to make plays on the football. So if you can get to the quarterback, they're going to play a whole lot better than whatever's going on right now in Dallas, where they don't get pressure, they don't blitz, they don't get any type of sheds off the edges, they don't get any pressure up the middle, and those cornerbacks are just not succeeding out there. That's not their style of play. You got to get to the quarterback, force quick throws under pressure, and let those playmaking corners do what they do best. And that's a tough pick right there, because I really want to give Christian Miller to the Ravens. That would be an easy selection at that point. They clearly need some help in the middle, stopping the run, because that defense is atrocious as well. I'm going to give them Avion Terrell, though, out of Clemson, one of the better, more consistent corners in college football. A little bit undersized at 5'11", 180, and I did this as well with a different corner on a Twitter mock draft a couple weeks ago, and all the Ravens fans were like, we're not drafting a corner. I just don't know who else you would really take in this situation. I don't know if you would take another edge rusher. Maybe you would, because Van Noy is coming towards the end of his career as well. But Marlon Humphrey stinks. Jair Alexander stinks. Nate Wiggins is solid, still young, another corner out of Clemson. I would take another corner. If Avion Terrell fell to 27. I'm taking Terrell and I'm pairing him up with Wiggins. I'm letting Marlon go. Not really sure what the contract situation is there, but there's no way Jair is going to be the solution there either. Pick number 28, we got the San Francisco 49ers, who just have so many injuries all the time. There's always somebody missing, but so well coached, man. I could see them making a little run this year. I mean, Mac Jones is playing out of his mind. Maybe he's the starting quarterback going forward. Got no idea what you do if you're San Francisco. But again, another team, maybe not so much the quarterback, but the coach kind of has a reputation for maybe not having a ton of success in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can put it together this year. Not really sure there's any tackles here I would like to select to replace Trent Williams if he does in fact retire. Secondary is pretty weak as well. Do you take TJ Parker, get another edge rusher with Bosa having his injury history? Bryce Huff has been awesome. He was wrecking the game versus the Falcons. Plus you got Mykel Williams, the youngster out of Georgia, who still, has a ton of development to go there as well. So he's a guy who probably still get playing time throughout the course of the season and next year. I don't think Mykel Williams is hurt. I don't know. It's hard to keep track of the injuries in San Francisco. Obviously, they don't need a wide receiver. This is probably one of the tougher picks for me in this situation. Maybe you could take Caleb Lomu. I think he probably needs to beef up a little bit. But he's a guy who can play a lot of different spots on the offensive line. Maybe he could be a solution there at left tackle as well to replace Trent Williams at some point, and then just be a swing tackle, maybe move inside to guard as well, depending on what the injury situation is like. Linebacker, Fred Warner obviously hurt. Bethune, I think is how you pronounce his name. Am I saying that right? He was awesome as well versus the Falcons. Don't know where that dude came from. He looked like Fred Warner out there. If you put Fred Warner number 54 on him, I would have believed that was him. So this is a hard team to make a selection for. I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of drawing at blanks here. Maybe cornerback. I don't know if there's really a safety worth taking here. Maybe Thieneman out of Georgia could be a decent shout as well. He's been pretty solid for the Ducks this season. So maybe Thieneman. Chris Johnson, I don't know if he's really played any elite talent yet. So, the schedule's been pretty easy, but he's been one of the best lockdown cover corners in college football. I need to watch more tape from this guy. I've only really seen highlights, so I can't confidently put somebody like this, who I don't really have a personal grade on, in the first round. I mean, I'm going to be honest, boys. I'm completely drawing a blank here. I feel like every selection prior to this point, I've been pretty confident in who somebody might take. It's hard too because TJ Parker is still on the board. As far as corners go, I think Colton Hood. I mean, he's solid. They could definitely use a corner, but he's kind of trending a little bit down for me lately. Sorry, I mean, I really don't know at this point. I just don't think they would take another edge. Um, I mean, maybe we're gonna give them Caleb Lomu. And maybe, again, he's a guy who fills in at either guard spot. If Trent Williams retires, he fills the left tackle position, beef him up a little bit, and he's definitely talented. Like, he's a guy who could be a long-term left tackle. I think that makes decent sense there, and more sense than anything else here for me personally. At pick number 29, we got the Buffalo Bills. I think the Falcons maybe put the blueprint out there, and we kind of saw it the week before with the Patriots as well. Not good versus man coverage. Keon Coleman, not a good separator. We know this. Kincaid, not a good separator at tight end. Shakir, more of a guy who gets open versus zone as well. Not a fantastic route runner versus man coverage. You need a guy who can get open versus man, and Denzel Boston is exactly that type of guy. He's a guy who can get separation. Teams are starting to run man coverage and blitz Josh Allen so he can't kill them with their legs, and these guys just simply can't get open. So Denzel Boston to Buffalo at pick number 29. At pick number 30, we have the LA Rams, who we had earlier select Dante Moore, a team that also needs potentially a tackle as well. A receiver makes a lot of sense for me as well, with Devontae Adams coming towards the end of his career. Puka Nacua is fantastic, easily probably a top 3 wide receiver in the league at this point. So could easily see them go wide receiver. Worst case scenario, even if, not worst case scenario, best case scenario, if Devontae Adams comes back next season, continues his career, you've got another good wide receiver 3, which they don't really currently have at the moment. I mean, Tutu Atwell is not the worst ever, but, you want somebody who can fill in those Devontae Adams shoes and also take some concentration, I guess, off of Puka Nacua for the coming year. So Brazel definitely makes a lot of sense here. There's a lot of really good receivers. Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, Ian Strong out of Rutgers, Conception out of Texas A&M. We're going to go Brazel here. I love Brazel as a deep threat. This is a guy who's, I believe, 6'5". Like, he is 6'5". He's fast. He kind of reminds me of Nick Harbor. Maybe not as fast as Nick Harbor, but a little bit more polished than Nick Harbor. Still a ton of upside there. Could easily be a late first-round selection. Pick number 31, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, who could definitely use some edge help. We're going to give them TJ Parker out of Clemson, who, heading into the season, a lot of people had inside their top 5, inside their top 10. I think he's fallen a little bit. Still super talented. Could easily go higher than this. But if he falls to pick number 31 to the Chiefs, that's a team that could definitely use some edge help, no doubt about it. Pick number 32, we have the Detroit Lions. I could also see the Chiefs taking Kenyon Sadiq. This is a guy who's his run blocking grade on PFF isn't great, but I think he's a really good run blocker. The drop rate's a little bit high, but he is super talented as well. Obviously, Kelsey coming towards the end of his career. I could see Sadiq going to the Eagles or the Chiefs. It's hard to imagine he would fall out of the first round, but I guess in this case he will. I think the biggest need, I will say that I think last night against the Bucks, albeit Mike Evans did get hurt, and I think Ibuka was playing through injury, their corners played great. Meek Robinson, and then I believe, I'm drawing a blank on the other corner right now because DJ Reed has been out, but they could definitely use corner help. Maybe you just go best player available at this moment as well. This is a team that is, they got a lot of talent, no question about it. I mean, it's hard to imagine CJ Allen would fall out of the first round as well. They do have Jack Campbell, so maybe CJ Allen makes some sense here out of Georgia. Can never have too much talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball with how well this offense has been playing the last couple of years. For me, it's really corner. Maybe you go Colton Hood or Chris Johnson, or you go best player available. Take Sadiq doesn't make a lot of sense with Laporta. But again, CJ Allen maybe as well, or Anthony Hill's another guy I could easily see going in the first round. Linebacker, Positional value again isn't great, especially with guys who can't also rush the passer, which I don't think Anthony Hill is a guy who really also rushes the passer. He's more of a guy, he actually plays more in the slot than he does on the D line. Double the snaps there. Definitely somebody who's very versatile, but probably a better cover guy than he is a pass rusher. So a tough selection for me here as well. I think when Colton Hood was playing better, it was an easier pick for me. I'm going to give them Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. And I'm going to watch some more tape on Chris Johnson. That's kind of a flyer pick for me right there. Just a fun one for, a guy that maybe hasn't gotten a ton of love from people doing mock drafts lately. And I'm going to watch some tape this week on him. I'm going to get a more convincing opinion, at least personally, on him. And I'll let you guys know what I think. But I definitely like the way this draft turned out. A lot of guys on the rise right now. Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, again, so good. Jordan Tyson still clearly the best wide receiver in the country to me. Chris Bell out of Louisville. Some really exciting receivers that are really trending up right now. This could be a really good wide receiver class. Quarterbacks, not super confident in those guys. But this is what we got right here. Let me know what you agree with what you don't agree with. What I should change for next week. I might try to do one of these every single week, maybe every other week, just so it's not overly saturated. But I appreciate you guys for watching the video. If you guys are still watching at this point, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys either next week or the week after for an updated mock draft at that point.